everyone, welcome to First Pages. I've been talking with a friend of mine, we've been chatting, and it was brought to my attention, and I guess I kind of already knew this, but I'm a little bit stiff in these videos. I need to loosen up a little bit. So I'm going to work on that. I don't want these videos to be about me, they're about the authors whose books I'm reading, but at the same time I don't want you to think that you're watching a mannequin. So I'll work on the loosening up part. Today's book is The Last Call by George Weir. It's a Bill Travis mystery. Okay, you ready? The concrete walled room had not seen daylight in 80 years. Its only visitors were the occasional mouse or dung beetle, which died of thirst or hunger shortly after happening along. There was a growing collection of the bones and husks of such spread around in little dried piles. The room's furnishings, which consisted of little more than a small card table and a turn-of-the-century rocking chair, had been perfectly preserved in the dry North Texas climate, and the room's only permanent occupant, seated in the rocking chair, grinned vacantly in the dark, waiting to greet the first interloper to come along. The occupant was a skeleton, little more than fine clothing over crumbling, desiccated flesh and protruding bone. Had the skeleton still retained its meat, and had blood still coursed through its now empty spaces, it would have been surprised at the sudden present that shushed through the inky blackness overhead and landed on its lap, cracking its pelvis and sending decades of dust flying. The present, a leather physician's bag, itself an antique, was partially open. The bag landed upside down, and its contents spilled out onto the dust-laden trousers and slapped down onto the concrete floor with a dull thud. Perhaps if the occupant still had eyes with which to see and a light to see by, it would have seen the denominations of the bills in each deck of 100, and perhaps after a lifetime spent in earnest chasing after just such, it would have grinned even wider if old corpses could. Instead, it accepted the gift from above silently and began again to mark time in the dark as it had done for decades. Outside, above, lightning flashed and thunder boomed. Inside, the dust that had for a brief moment stirred slowly settled back down. All the hell started on Monday morning while I was driving north to work along the loop near the pulsing heart of Austin. Traffic was bumper to bumper. I could have made as much headway on foot. I kept seeing this red roadster, flashy, one of those kit jobs that makes no pretense at posing as original. 1 minute it was behind me and I could see it in my side view mirror, then in a flash past me, several cars ahead, then I passed it again. I wouldn't have cared too much about the roadster, only there was this girl. Story of my life. A man gets up into his late 30s, and the chances are he stops looking and begins observing. I don't know when exactly this happened to me. Couldn't pin it to a day or even a year, really. Just sort of crept in, and one day I found myself completely aloof in my watching, peripheral vision on automatic. Not shifty, no, but peripheral, that in spades. The girl in the roadster that morning knew I was looking, but I got the feeling that she didn't mind so much. I caught just the hint of a smile as she trundled up even with me one more time, just before I had to pass her again. She had big hair, even though it was tied off into a ponytail. Women with ponytails do funny things to me. This one had both a ponytail and hair with actual mass to it, but at the same time her hair looked fine, like baby hair. It was reddish blonde, the color of an East Texas sunset. That's where I'm from. And it rippled like the wind through the high grass. Also, she wore huge, snotty sunglasses. In a word, she wore bitch like a totem, except of course for her mouth, her glorious soft mouth. Behind me, ahead of me, behind. I didn't turn my head, not even once. But then she came right alongside. My exit lane was coming up, but suddenly I wasn't taking it. I had bigger fish to fry. My aging heart, God bless it, didn't even miss a chug, too seasoned to stop working over a goddess in traffic. There was a dead standstill ahead, likely some kind of accident. Happens every day in the big city. Unlucky for somebody else, but so far, I was liking it. My peripheral vision extended to encompass points west, like maybe Fiji Island. My window was cracked just 2 inches, enough to muss my hair a little, and the wind was coming from that way, and upon my life I could smell her. My finger jabbed at the window button, lowering it to half-mast. I knew she was still looking. It felt like she wanted me to look at her. I counted. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and turned slowly. No smile, just deadpan, a guy in traffic on his way to work. She removed her sunglasses and smiled a little, and Old Faithful betrayed me. Clang! I looked at her and tried not to smile, which was difficult, the way she smiled at me, playful as if to say, "There are possibilities here. The door is slightly ajar. Maybe you could come on in. Maybe not. We'll see." She was the cat and I was the mouse, and some kind of game was in progress. I wasn't paying any attention to what was going on ahead of me, and it just so happened that that was the game she'd been playing all along. Distraction. She looked forward, taking those lovely eyes off me. When I finally looked forward, the line ahead of me had moved up perhaps 50 or so yards. My right foot began the motion to switch from brake to gas, and before that small space between foot and pedal was closed completely, I heard rubber peeling on asphalt in a growing whine. There was a red and white blur just as I pushed on the gas, and my reflex was to brake again. But before I could even do that, the beautiful girl with the man-slaying smile and the bitch glasses and the red roadster that I wouldn't have minded too much sitting in my own driveway darted into the narrow space between me and the car ahead of her, and my heart lurched and my ears winced in anticipation of a metal-on-metal screech that didn't come. I suppose my ears turned red. It felt like that anyway. Maybe someone behind me had seen it all and knew that I'd been played for a fool. And maybe not. The problem was, I knew. As the shock wore off, I moved forward again, my window full up now and destined to remain so. I'd been thoroughly put in my place. By the time I got up to the traffic in front of me, the red roadster with the snotty little bitch had switched lanes again, merged into moving traffic, and was gone. So what does a man who's a blink away from 40 do? Excuse me. He does what he's supposed to do. He goes off to work as if nothing had happened at all. And that is The Last Call, a Bill Travis mystery by George Weir. I hope you enjoyed those first few pages. Tried to liven it up a little bit. If you want to read more, please check out the description with the buy links. If you like the channel, please subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Happy reading!